Hello and welcome to the Post Up Podcast. This is Cyrus Rogers.
And this is Kaunda Chama reporting in for service. What's up?
So, we've got a great show this week. Kaunda, the NBA season has gone to the point where it really is all about business. If you're not doing it, you might as well go home.
You don't even go home. You ain't got to go home. Just go on holiday. Go fishing. It's go fishing time, Cyrus.
It is.
Look, we've just finished the semifinals of the NBA postseason. Now we're going into the conference finals. And it's been a journey.
It really has. And we've had African players as the standout players. We've had guys who you thought would do some stuff, really not pitching up. But more than anything else, you are valued listeners of the Post Up Podcast. We've got a surprise for you. We've been teasing something for a while, and guess what? It has finally arrived. Post Up Zone is here for all of you. That's the new website where you can go and interact with us, find out more about the African basketball, the NBA action, WNBA, FIBA action, all with an African angle. PostUpZone.com.
PostUpZone.com, Cyrus. I'm really excited. The new website, the home of basketball in Africa. NBA, FIBA. We'll be covering stuff about local leagues when we can. It's just... if it's kind of orange and it bounces, we'll speak about it.
That's basically it.
We'll
make sure you go to Post Up Zone. You can find the Post Up Podcast on there, some of our videos, but most importantly, some of the best articles from some of the great journalists on the continent, people that we've worked with as well. And, a couple of scoops here and there when we got them. But let's talk about what is happening in the league so far. And I think one of the things we've got to start off with is to talk about the best African players in the NBA from the conference semifinals and who's left. It's been a heck of a journey. You mentioned that,
Cyrus. 2 Game 7s.
Yeah.
A Game 6 and a Game 5, right?
Yeah.
It was intense. It was intense. I mean, like the 2 Game 7s couldn't have ended, any more exciting than they did. Such close games.
They really were. And you saw the best of the teams and the worst of the teams as well. Because I think that when the tension is so high and you don't want to make mistakes, mistakes start coming out. And that's what you saw in the Raptors versus the 76ers game and in the Nuggets versus the Trailblazers game. That they just weren't hitting the shots that they needed to. And some of the big players disappeared. Damian Lillard, for instance. But
before we get into that, Cyrus, let's go. Let's take a look at our top players in the semifinals. Semifinals. So, should we start from the bottom to the top, or
there's no real order?
Okay, there's no real order. Like, look, standout player, I'd say, of the regular season and so far in the postseason, a young African. This guy's a 3-time All-Star.
Yeah, I don't know why you keep MVP. Teasing him like that. Just say his name.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
From the house Antetokounmpo.
From the house Antetokounmpo, representing the place where you must fear the deer.
Definitely.
The Milwaukee Bucks. Cyrus, he's averaging a double-double.
Yeah.
I'm talking at least 27 points a game.
But it's not just that, it's his influence on his teammates. Because the points, obviously that's important, But when you look at what the guys are doing around him, because even when he's not on the court, the team actually perform even better. So they know that they've got to step it up. Teams find it so difficult to try and stop Giannis. But then when they think that they can get a break when Giannis is on the bench, boom, the Bucks bench mob comes in and they do their thing.
And that bench mob is tall.
Yeah,
length on that bench.
It is, but we'll talk about them just now. I mean, as far as the African consideration goes, Giannis is definitely one of the guys, and he's still in. So he's going to be playing in the conference finals. But then the other standout guy for me, Joel Embiid, who has just been phenomenal this entire season. He got ill in this conference semifinals.
He had his own flu game.
Yeah, he did.
Michael Jordan got a flu game.
A couple of them.
Joel Embiid had his recent flu game.
Michael Jordan's flu game was something to write home about. Joel Embiid's was something he hoped he'd take medication to forget. And I think this is the thing, is that the Sixers lived and died by just how well Joel Embiid played. And unfortunately for them, in a couple of the games where they really needed their big man, he just wasn't able to deliver. And even worse, Ben Simmons then disappeared. But Joel Embiid was a real standout in the conference semifinals. We love this guy.
Cyrus, this guy is also averaging a double-double. It's a pity he's out. I mean, based on him alone, I was hoping the 76ers make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But, it is what it is. There's a whole lot of other Africans on the Toronto Raptors. So I'm still smiling. So that's fantastic. But, he's been great. Averaging a double-double in the regular season and in the postseason. And like you said, plays run through him.
Yeah.
He was basically the heart and soul of this team. Given, also granted he had other big pieces like, Jimmy Butler around him,
Tobias
Ben
Harris,
Simmons,
JJ
Tobias Harris,
Redick,
JJ Redick. But if you mention the 76ers, right now you can't mention the 76ers without mentioning Embiid. He's becoming like what Allen Iverson was to the Sixers.
Yeah, exactly. Iconic.
When you think him,
Iconic.
you think
In
the
fact,
Sixers.
when you think the Sixers, you think Joel Embiid.
Absolutely.
I can't actually think of anyone else. Not say I can't, but when you think about the 76ers, or if you mention the 76ers, Joel Embiid is the first name to come to mind. It's not Ben Simmons.
It's that impact, Cyrus. He's had such a great impact. Just to think, not too long ago, this guy was at Basketball Without Borders Africa.
And skinny as all heck. He's filled out.
And speaking of Basketball Without Borders Africa, another alum from that, Pascal Spicy P Siakam from the Toronto Raptors.
He's just been so good. If he's not the most improved player this season, I don't know who is. Some might say D'Angelo Russell. He also became an all-star this season. Yeah. But when you look at Siakam's impact on this Raptors team, he just needs to play well in order for the Raptors to do well. Now, when he plays poorly, then the Raptors fall apart. Not to say that he's Kawhi Leonard important to that team, but he is as valuable to the Raptors right now as any other player on that roster, if not more. And Pascal Siakam has had a great conference semifinals. In fact, the playoffs have been good for him.
They've been good for him. He struggled in 1 or 2 games. I think it was game 5 or game 6 where he was missing in action there.
Touch and go because of injury.
Yeah, but look, Cyrus, originally, if you remember, the first time we started really noticing Pascal Siakam coming into his own, we always thought he's got great defensive prowess.
Yeah.
But now, he's showing you he's a two-way player. Find him on offense, find him on defense.
I'm going to say something a little wild here.
Uh-oh.
Right? I
hope it's not like Luke Mbamute wild. I
know you.
No,
not like that. But I think Pascal Siakam has the potential to be the greatest African two-way player since Hakeem Olajuwon.
Woo! I hope Giannis is listening to this, but moving right along.
I mean, he is born in Cameroon, so if anything, not to take anything away from Giannis. I mean, obviously he's a Nigerian, from birth because of his parents and what have you.
Yeah.
But he hasn't even been to Nigeria yet.
He's been to South Africa.
Yeah, there is that. I'm not hating on the guy,
Nah.
but I'm talking about it in terms of Pascal Siakam's potential, and I love what he's able to do. But then the other guy on the Raptors team we got to talk about is Serge Ibaka, who had an incredible Game 7 against the Sixers. He was all over the court, and you're seeing the veteran experience. You're seeing the ability to hit 3-point shots consistently under pressure, getting offensive rebounds, getting defensive rebounds, blocking people. I mean, there was not a thing that I can think of that Serge Ibaka didn't do in Game 7, and that's big time.
Look, honestly, Cyrus, Serge has been here before.
Oh, yeah.
When he was at the Oklahoma City Thunder, he made it to the conference finals. So, and he made it to the finals.
Yeah.
So, he knows the bright lights of the playoffs, and he knows just how much he's going to step up. And I think him being an influence on the Pascal Siakam as well, he has to show the young man what to do and when to do it. And I think Pascal strikes me as a guy who's learning from a Serge, and a Serge now is becoming that vet. And I think it's great to see him perform at that level at this stage, because I think that's what the Toronto Raptors needed. And you saw what happened in
Game 7.
In Grade 7, yeah.
But this is the thing about it, though, is that when you look at all the pieces that they've got, the veteran experience is one of the critical things that they haven't necessarily had over the years. And Serge Ibaka's just gotten better and better. He's had a couple of weird spots, because having gone from the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he was really fantastic, to then the Orlando Magic for a couple of months, and then finding himself in Toronto, it's been a journey to where he now feels comfortable.
Yep.
He's even cooking, he's cooking on TV, he's got his own cooking shows, that sort of stuff. So he feels comfortable, and I think that he's so comfortable right now. He's even trying to convince Kawhi Leonard to stay.
And I think I'd love to see that. Sidebar, this is an open invitation to Serge Ibaka to the Post Up Podcast. If you can cook, I'm sure you can join us on the Post Up Podcast.
Oh, definitely.
Open invitation. We can eat.
We got to learn. And I think the last African player we want to talk about in the highest performing African players, but the last African player is definitely, without question, al-farouq Aminu, who has been so good for the Portland Trailblazers over the years.
Cyrus, after he left the Pelicans, he was at the Pelicans, and then joined the Portland Trailblazers. I think did he do first he was at the Mavs, then he went to the Pelicans, then he came to Portland.
It's
Trailblazers.
a circuitous route,
but I think he found a comfortable place where he can play well with the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah.
And you've noticed every time the Trailblazers have gone into the postseason, he has come alive. I
That's
don't know
true.
what happens in a Minuville, but a Minuville comes alive when it's the postseason, and I love it. He's got impacts on the offensive boards, he's got defensive boards. Now he's got this three-pointer that comes. It wasn't really there in Game 7, but in all other games before that, you saw that he could pull up from three-point range comfortably.
And I think the thing about Aminu here is just his versatility defensively and offensively. And the other thing being that he also does so well in transition. When the Portland Trailblazers are playing in transition, either going from offense to defense or the other way around, Aminu is one of the fastest guys up that court.
Yep.
He reads the game fairly quickly and he knows what he needs to do. One of the other things that's very underrated about him is his free throw shooting, because his free throw shooting is really top notch. And he's the kind of player, when you're fighting for rebounds and stuff, chances are you will get fouled trying to get that extra bucket. So getting the and one is important. Even if you don't necessarily get the and one, shooting 2 free throws and being able to hit them is vital, especially in the make or break spaces like the playoffs. So al-Farouq Aminu has got to be one of our standouts, and I love just watching him play because he does what he needs to do. The chief is here.
Absolutely, and what a great guy. Remember we met him during Basketball Without Borders Africa 2018. It was great to talk to. He had great insights on how young players can make it to that next level. And I think, that top 5, Cyrus, that's a great top 5. I think Africa is really taking the NBA by storm here.
Without question. I don't know if you could count 5 Serbian guys who are in the playoffs right now. But Africa
is that shade I see, dear Cyrus?
Just a little bit.
See but some baobab level shade here.
This is pride more than shade.
Oh,
it's pride.
okay.
African pride.
African pride.
Yeah, that's it. So I think at this point it's time for us to really sort of delve into the review of the conference semifinals, because they were impressive. There were some amazing games to be had. So if we're looking at the Eastern Conference, you had the Bucks taking on the Celtics, and the Bucks won that series in 5. You had the Raptors taking on the Sixers, that went to 7 games. And in the Western Conference, it was the Warriors beating the Rockets in 6, and then the Trailblazers beating the Nuggets in 7. I mean, they were all impressive series for one reason or the other. Let's start in the Eastern Conference with the Bucks and the Celtics.
Let's take back to the Bucks and the Celtics, Sarah. So, to me, I want to ask you a question because I really want to get into it. Is this testament to how good the Bucks played, or how bad the Celtics played?
I think that there was a combination here. I think the Celtics' performance really comes down to how well the Bucks played, because I think that the Celtics were forced to play the game the way they didn't want to play. And so they struggled, as they have done throughout the season, but they struggled for cohesion, they struggled for teamwork, and they weren't necessarily getting the looks that they wanted. Even when they got open shots, they weren't making them count. And I think that had to do with some of the Bucks' defense. They have length. You've often mentioned that the Milwaukee Bucks are team length.
Team length is the future.
And I think the other thing about it is that they also have shooting in all of that. And they've also got one of the front runners for the MVP this year in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has made so many teams face his wrath because he can't be stopped. When you are trying to defend against him in a transition game, man, oh man, he's going to kill you. He can even kill you in the half-court game too. He doesn't have a jumper, but
it's coming. It's coming. He's still young, Cyrus. He's still young. He can develop that jumper. But if I may take the conversation now to the Celtics, Cyrus, you see what I think I saw, right? Yeah. The regular season, guys struggled for cohesion. The locker room was not the place to be for them. It was just everywhere. And they brought back 2 superstars that were missing in last postseason, who are Kyrie Irving, who's the floor general, then Gordon Hayward, who was the small forward they brought in from the Utah Jazz. So we're like, okay, he came out in the first game of the last season and he never appeared anywhere else. He was 5 minutes. He played all of 5 minutes for the Celtics. Now, bring it to this season. You have a revamped Celtics because they got 2 superstars back who they were missing, even though they made it to conference finals, right? But then you look at them and say, but what is happening? They're struggling. And in the first round, though, they sort of showed us the Celtics that we should have known. Yeah. Then I was like, wait a minute, Cyrus. We might have something here. I think there's been some talk. Danny Ainge must have said something. Something has happened.
Something's worked.
First round, something has worked. They look comfortable. Then became the Milwaukee Bucks, and they were like maybe the Celtics killer, if you will. You know, and
They put them out of their comfort zone.
If the Celtics were the Night King.
No spoilers.
No
but I get
spoilers,
what you're
but you
saying.
see what I'm talking about.
But in essence, this is, the boogeyman can be defeated by somebody with the right game plan.
And then I saw something. I saw Jaylen Brown disappear. I saw Scary Terry not being scary anymore. And one of our favorites, Jason Tatum. I don't know if it's because now, but there were times when Gordon Hayward was coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Of course, Jason Tatum starting, but still, they were not there. And then you look at Kyrie. When Kyrie had a great game, they looked promising.
Yeah.
When he had a bad game, they looked terrible. So I was thinking, and then there was all the off-court drama. There was Kyrie talking to the media and hinting.
But bringing all of that up,
Yes.
are you asking the question, who's to blame?
Yes.
Because I think the thing here
Is
is,
it Danny Ainge?
look, I
Is
don't see
it
how.
Coach Brad Stevens? Is it Kyrie Irving?
I think it's a combination of all of them, except I don't see where Ainge gets this wrong. Because as the GM, you are there to bring the players in to facilitate trying to win championships.
Yep.
You can't tell me that looking at that Celtics team that they weren't good enough as a team when you're looking at it on paper.
They were great on paper, Cyrus. They had so much depth in that second unit. I thought these guys are going all the way to face the Warriors.
And this is the thing, is that perhaps the greatest struggle they had was having players who were too good to be benching. Some of them who felt they were too good, like a Terry Rozier, who has said it time and again. Even once they got knocked out, he'd be like, talking in the third person. Nobody benched Terry Rozier. But the thing being that he wants to be able to go out and play regularly. He doesn't want to have to be second fiddle. Considering that he's going to be playing second fiddle to Kyrie Irving, one of the great point guards in the NBA
league at the moment, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff around that, and then trying to get the team chemistry together and trying to get it right was a problem. And this is where Brad Stevens has done a poor job, because he couldn't get the rotations right. Trying to crowbar in Gordon Hayward, who hasn't been at his best. In fact, Gordon Hayward is struggling to find who Gordon Hayward is. So I think this is where Brad Stevens had an issue. And then you come to the Kyrie point. And this is where you start wondering about what Kyrie's supposed to do, because Kyrie might have put across that he could do Kawhi Leonard style things, or Anthony Davis style things, or LeBron James style things to carry an entire team on his back. And you could see that he struggled under the weight of that. And you were the one who to mention this about him reaching out to LeBron to say, whoa, now that I got this, I can't believe that I actually gave you so much nonsense, because this is hectic.
Absolutely. He thought he could drive the school bus. That's when he was talking to the school bus driver, like, I could do that.
Yeah.
Probably even better than you. Then they're like, okay, here's a bus and some kids in the back. And now he realized that it's actually hard to concentrate when you're trying to drive and kids are making noise in the back. So it was, like he mentioned, that the youngsters sort of didn't want to follow his lead, and that created problems. But I think also going to the media also created a little bit of tension. And also, much like the Lakers, who've been on holiday for a while now, big shout out to LeBron James.
On holiday.
The Anthony Davis potential trade, I think, also affected the Boston
Perhaps.
Because people in the Boston Celtics know who was going to go had Anthony
Who
come.
potentially
Could have gone if Anthony Davis had come, and that affected morale. You saw what he did at the Lakers.
Yeah.
I think.
But I think it's
thinking
different.
about it, that even at the Boston Celtics, then you're benching me, and I could have gone to the Pelicans. I could have been traded for this one guy.
I hear you, but it wasn't going to happen
There were so many
then.
factors.
And this is the thing, is that all of these Celtics players knew that the Davis trade wasn't going to happen this season if he didn't go to the Lakers.
Yeah.
So why not go out a champion? And I think this is the other thing. Being able to take the heat and go and ride that train as far as you can. And I think this is where there's going to be a lot of change. Man, this postseason is going to be ridiculous.
Just to close out this, because we've got three more games to look at. Cyrus, you say why not go out as a champion? I got an answer for that. If you've never been a champion, you don't know how to go out as a champion.
That's true.
If it was the Warriors, it would have been a different story, because they know how to push and go out as champions. This Celtics team, besides a Kyrie Irving, don't know how to go out as champions.
Don't.
And then when he's telling them, let's go out as champions, they'll probably like, nah.
Who in 2014 thought the Warriors would be champions in 2015? And this is the thing, at some point it's going to be your first time.
Absolutely.
Right? And so this is where I think that the Brad Stevens has got to do a bit of a job in trying to motivate the guys to understand that there is a championship at stake here. Not just bragging rights or a spot on the team. You're trying to win the Larry O'Brien trophy, and I think that's been the major issue. We haven't spoken about the Bucks enough. They were fantastic. The Bucks dominated the series. To win in 5 games, fantastic, and Giannis has been the guy to do that.
Absolutely.
Let's go on to the next game. Raptors versus Sixers, 7-game series. What a way to end it.
Cyrus, this was a beautiful series. I love the way the Sixers were determined, a young unit. Most of them haven't been this far, into the postseason.
Yeah.
And the likes of Jimmy Butler, of course, have been there. But your Joel Embiid, this was the furthest they've actually
Ben Simmons
had to push. Ben Simmons is relatively new to the
I
league.
mean, they did this last season.
But this was going to be their first time making it to the conference finals,
Yeah.
and I think they were really ready to push with that. Some nice, having the
pieces.
the Tobias Harris and the Boban Marjanovic acquisition gave them, more strength there. They brought in Jimmy Butler earlier. It was a real good unit.
But the other guys they had in who are bringing amazing play, Mike Scott, James Ennis, they were superb in the postseason.
TJ McConnell, they had a great unit, but I think there was a bit of a lack of experience at this level in that team. And I think the skill was there, the determination was there, but what they did is they met up with the Toronto Raptors that was now being led by a former champion.
Yeah, and
in
that's
Kawhi
it.
Leonard.
And in essence, that is exactly why Masai Ujiri made the trade between DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi Leonard. That DeMar DeRozan is a great player, and he's done a lot for the city of Toronto and for the Raptors, but he's not a former champion. He's not a former Finals MVP.
No.
And this is what Kawhi Leonard is. And he said, look, let's get this thing done. Kawhi, bring us to the promised land. And that's the experience you're talking about, because you're also talking about a Serge Ibaka, who's been to the NBA Finals before. You've got guys who've got playoff experience intermingled with the guys who don't necessarily have that in that Raptors team.
You've got a Kyle Lowry who's got lots of postseason experience in there. You've got a Marc Gasol who played for the Grizzlies, who knows what it is to get down gritty and grimy as a team in the West, now coming to the East to help boost Toronto. Fred VanVleet kept on coming awake every now and then when a Kyle Lowry looks like he was having a bad day.
And he did that in the last season, postseason.
It was really and it was a Raptors playing with more confidence. Need I say this in a conference that no longer has LeBron
James, and this is it.
And I think they took advantage of that, and look where it has brought them. And what I love about this, Cyrus, there was no blowout.
Yeah.
In the end, it was a 2-point game, and may I say the best man hit that clutch shot.
You got to do it.
Kawhi Leonard. I mean. That could have been a missed shot. It was a semi-circus shot over Joel Embiid.
It was a couple of millimeters away from a missed shot, and I think that's it. That you got to take the shots, you got to be able to take the chances, and live or die by it. And I think that what the Raptors had different to the Sixers was that they had a guy with a killer instinct on their team versus the Sixers who just didn't have that person.
I get it. They had a Kobe Bryant on their team.
If you have to, as a Lakers fan,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's it.
And that was like 101.
But that's the Kawhi Leonard. I mean, that's what he did, and that's the Mamba mentality, being able to kill them with the shots that you have.
But in all seriousness, Cyrus, it took confidence, it took experience. He's been here before, and like you mentioned, off mic, that he had tried a couple of these shots in the regular season, and he had missed sometimes, and he didn't quite hit that buzzer beater. But this was it. It was clutch time.
This is what
he was the leader
for.
of this team, and he was like, if you need to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm taking you there. And if I have to shoot over Joel Embiid, I'm gonna do it.
And the emotion of it all afterwards, because everyone jokes about how he's like a robot, nothing much is happening. But
you saw that face.
He was screaming. He was so
amped.
excited. It was unbelievable. So it's great to see them going to the conference finals, and we'll see from there what happens. Kawhi Leonard with the gamble. Quick answer.
Worth the gamble.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Masai Ujiri.
Oh, without a question. I think that even if he doesn't stay in Toronto, and I'd love for him to stay there,
so would I.
It's really been worth it. It looks as if the Kawhi Leonard gamble has been worth it. And they now know that they face a Bucks team that are very equal to them in the conference finals.
It's a more rested Bucks team.
Yeah.
Because the Bucks, winning that series 4-1, have been resting. Well, these guys went 7 straight games, so you know they really need to make sure they eat those carbs and get as much rest as they can. Ice packs on those knees.
We'll see what they do.
So Cyrus, let's take it to the West. I know you love this matchup. The Golden State Warriors versus the Houston Rockets. Because I was one, and I will admit, who was mouthing off at the possibility that the Houston Rockets might take this series. But, as you can see, in Game 6, I was proven very
hella wrong, I believe some might say.
Even when I thought, ooh, Steph's having a bad day. Here we go. No.
That series was just eye-opening for a lot of different reasons. Now, I know, and you've been one of the people who've said this in the past, hey, the Warriors won the championship in 2015 without Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
They got to the NBA Finals in 2016, though they lost to the Cavs late in that series without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And now they went and beat the Rockets without Kevin Durant. And this is a Rockets team they were full strength. So it puts to bed a lot of different story arcs because the Houston Rockets spoke last season about how missing Chris Paul definitely was the thing that did them in. They would have won Game 7 if they was there, all of that stuff. The Warriors were like, okay, fine, tell us how that worked out for you now. Chris Paul was there, James Harden was there, Clint Capella was there. We were missing our big guys. We didn't have KD. We didn't have a center who was an all-star, I mean, they haven't necessarily always had that.
Well, he wasn't there. Look, this was a statement game, Cyrus. And to me, what stands out the most was the fact that Steph Curry went the first half scoreless. He couldn't mark that score sheet if you gave him a Sharpie.
That's true. And I think the thing about that, though, is when you look at it, you say, how is Steph going to get out of this slump? And the reality was, he shot his way out of the slump.
He can get 33 points in about 21 minutes.
It was crazy.
It was ridiculous.
It was crazy.
In the second half, 33 points.
I think we can safely say that this Warriors team is dangerous with or without Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
As long as they can keep a hold of Steph and Clay, the Splash Brothers, maybe hold on to Draymond Green, who is the glue in that team, they could be chasing for championships for another 4 or 5 years.
Look, let's just face the facts. The only pieces that are really missing out of this are your likes of Zaza Pachulia and David West.
The experience of the bench.
The experience of the bench, but really the core stays the same. And with all due respect to Kevin Durant, they've done it before without him, and they can do it without him.
Possibly, but they're gonna at some point they're gonna miss an Andre Iguodala who won't be there, or a Sean Livingston who will eventually leave the team, and so they've got to try and make everything else work around whoever decides to leave, because players will still want to play with the Warriors. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think though that the Rockets are going to be all changed, and I don't see where they go from here, because they have a couple of players who are locked into deals that are long-term deals.
But Cyrus, just to close off this battle, where, if you were to mention one thing, where do you think the Rockets went wrong?
That is a good question. And you know what's weird is that I think that they kind of got out-hustled, especially in Game 6. That one of the things that the Warriors managed to do was not let Kevin Durant's absence affect them. KD he didn't even travel with the team. He stayed back home and he watched the game on TV. But the thing was that every time the Rockets tried to go on a run, you had Klay Thompson doing everything he could. He shot 3-pointers. He shot jumpers from inside the arc. He was hitting, from the free throw line. He was just all over the place.
And he also had active hands too.
No, he's such a great defender. So when you look at what they did, they just said, okay, fine. You know what? We can't find one guy who will do what Durant does. All of us have to do it.
You have to pull
McKinney,
together.
you got to do it. Looney, you got to do it.
Kevon Looney, Cyrus.
He was so good. He was
How
so good.
impressive was that guy?
But this is the thing for me. That's what the Warriors do, is that they manage to get production out of guys who, these are second rounders, right? But they know that they have to do a job and they know that they can do it well. So they will go out and play. And this is, I think Steve Kerr, he deserves a lot of credit for this. Because in between all of this stuff, people forget that the Warriors didn't just acquire players. They drafted them. They groomed them and they made them into the players that they are today. And this team plays good basketball, unselfish basketball. When you look at it, they did everything the Rockets couldn't do. They hit shots when it was important, they got stops, and they also made sure they held onto the ball. so there weren't that many turnovers, and that's just critical. That's just critical.
Speaking of low turnovers, the Game 7 Trailblazers Denver Nuggets game was fantastic.
It really was. It really was. Though I do think it was exciting, but it was technically poor. Both teams just weren't shooting well down the stretch.
Cyrus,
Damian Lillard.
You can be honest and use the B word. For most of that game, it was rather boring.
No, I wouldn't say boring. I'd say bad.
It was boring. Cyrus, there were times when I was like,
oh, what's going to happen
speed it
now?
up a little bit. Why is everybody playing at Jokic speed here?
Yeah, well, sure. Going out there, throwing the Joker under the bus. But I get you in terms of the pace.
Like you say, it's not boring but bad, because the pace was a bit off, and you were like, "This is a postseason game. This is the decider.
Yeah.
One goes, one remains, guys. Why are you playing as if you don't want it? And do you know who you're facing after this game?
And perhaps that's why." People
they're
looking at like the
same
dragon's mouth is over there. Let's just see who's gonna get into it first.
Wow.
Look, I'm obviously being a bit facetious, but I think though that one of the things that we saw in that Portland Trailblazers versus Denver Nuggets game was experience again coming to the fore, and people showing when you've been in the league for a while, understanding what you can do in the big moments. Because I think that this Nuggets team is young, obviously, but they don't quite know who they are yet. You know what's really interesting is that when you had the Utah Jazz doing so well last season,
yes.
Donovan Mitchell was the player that everybody was talking about, right? He had that killer instinct about him. He lost it a little bit this season. Jamal Murray in these instances should have been like a Donovan Mitchell, taking the game to these guys and really showing no fear. Towards the tail end of that game, him, Jokic, Gary Harris just were ice cold. They might as well not have been playing with the bad shots they were taking, the bad decisions they were making, and then not making the most of the stops they were getting because they had the Trailblazers on the rack.
Look, first of all, I think for next season, I'm sure Nikola Jokic is going to work on his endurance. Honestly, he does look a bit spent when he gets to the fourth quarter, and I think that affects his efficiency. Gary Harris and Jamal Murray are young enough to do this all over again, and Stu smile while doing it. My concern was the likes of Paul Millsap allowing himself to get into such foul trouble, because he is a strong guy.
He's important, yeah.
He's a great three guard. He's got presence. He's got the size of he's like LeBron James-esque, if you will.
He's big. He's a big guy.
And then if you lose him, when you're doing so well defensively with him, I think that's where things started getting a little shaky.
But they only lost him in the last seconds of the game.
And that's where it mattered, Cyrus.
But it was gone at that point.
The Blazers had started flying back, and there was a time where it looked like, okay, it's a 3-4 point game, maybe a big three, and the forced foul for a 4-point play might bring them back. Then all of a sudden, your CJ McCollum did what CJ McCollum came to do. And without the likes of Millsap there, maybe to grab offensive, defensive rebounds and stuff like that, Plumlee wasn't having
Millsap
the
still
best
played
night.
most of that last minute of the game. The biggest issue here, though, was that they weren't hitting shots. That when they got their shots, they bricked all of them. The Nuggets just couldn't get the shots to fall. They didn't have a CJ that they could rely on. Whereas the Portland Trailblazers were like, Damian Lillard is not even, Dame time wasn't happening.
No.
It was like the clocks had moved forward or they moved backward, Dame time was out. But CJ kept that team together, and he understood. He said it in his post-game interview where he was like, look, I didn't come from the greatest university or college. In fact, nobody had been drafted from my college before I was.
Wow.
I know what it takes to work hard, and that's why I keep doing what I do. And you saw it in that game.
Oh, he was fantastic.
And I think the Trailblazers have played hard enough to go out there and face the Warriors in this final. And I think that's what we've got to talk about for the final minutes of this, is just to shortly preview the conference finals, because they're going to be incredible. So in the Eastern Conference, we have
the Bucks versus the Raptors. Cyrus, for some reason, I think as much as we have loved the Bucks in this postseason, even in the regular season, the Raptors could be the Bucks stopper. I say Raptors in 7 already at this stage.
Wow, okay.
Because there's something about the Raptors.
They're a different prospect.
They want it.
They're a
like,
different prospect.
They're like we being swept by the Cavs last season.
It's not happening
That was
again.
horrible. And we're not going to let Giannis be the new LeBron
new
James.
LeBron.
I think they're going to go in guns blazing, but then again, the Bucks are not a walk in the park.
And this is what I was going to say.
Fireworks.
It's going to be a great conference finals. I think the Bucks versus Raptors, they're fairly evenly matched squads. People talk about the benches being quite similar and very even.
Yep.
But I think the Bucks have the edge here. And the reason I say this is Giannis is one of the key components because there are very few players on any team in the NBA who can do what he does. His length, his speed, everything about him makes him so hard to guard when he's playing towards the basket, right? Who is going to get the stops on the defensive end for the Raptors? I don't see Marc Gasol stopping Giannis.
I think it's time for Spicy P to step up and Mike Gasol. There's going to be a lot of double teaming on Giannis.
Look, there will be double, triple teaming in some cases.
Yeah, they're going to be throwing Marc Gasol and OG Anunoby or Mike Gasol, Marc Gasol, and
I see what you're trying to do. And Serge Ibaka will play a big part. But what the Bucks will do is exactly what they did to the Celtics. That once you double, you're leaving everybody open, and they have shooters galore. And I trust the Bucks shooters more than I do the Raptors shooters, and that's the difference in this game. That the Bucks have Ilyasova, Mirotic, Middleton, Lopez is shooting threes. Malcolm Brogdon's back. Eric Bledsoe can also hit threes. And when you look on the opposite end, Kawhi can hit a three-pointer fairly regularly. Serge has been hitting them quite well.
Pascal's coming in.
Pascal, Marc Gasol is okay.
You haven't even mentioned the point guard because he blows so hot and cold.
But Kyle Lowry he's played very well recently. It's just
but hey, he does have his cold days.
And I think this is it. Is that
and
when
I think
it comes
so does
down
Fred VanVleet. So
the benches is where I was going to say that once the benches get into action and you've got like a Malcolm Brogdon playing with a Bledsoe and then Ilyasova and then Mirotic or a Pat Connaughton or any of the other players come through, Tony Snell for instance, that bench is going to be so tough to stop. And I think the Raptors don't necessarily have an answer there. And that's where I think the game will turn. But the other thing for me is that if it's from a coaching perspective, Nick Nurse is still new to the head coaching space. Whereas we're talking about a former coach of the year, Mike
Budenholzer, yeah.
And Budenholzer is going to be the key differentiator here because he understands the situation. And I think that's why Bucks are making it to the conference final, to the NBA finals.
Thanks for your informed analysis, Cyrus. I'm still going Raptors in 7. This is going to be a long series.
I think this is going to be Bucks in 6.
You and I are going to be gnashing teeth. We're going to be breaking glasses.
Let's see. I said it, Bucks in 6. I think the Bucks. And you know what's weird is that I'm saying the Bucks now, but in my actual bracket, I've picked the Raptors to go all the way. So I'm basically going against myself.
Times change. Cyrus, let's move into the West before we go.
Oh gosh. How am I going to go against
the Warriors versus the Okay, as a Warriors fan, we're going to give you
first reply.
No, we're not going to give you reply. You've got diplomatic immunity. We know
I can
you
say
want
whatever.
the Warriors.
Warriors through.
Yes,
it's true.
Cyrus, I got two situations here. Right?
Yeah.
If the Trailblazers play the way they played in Game 7, they're going to get swept by the Warriors.
I agree with you.
If they play the way they played against the Nuggets in Game 7, they're going to get swept by the Warriors. But I think this is the opportunity between now and when? Wednesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Between now and Tuesday for them to regroup and really analyze who the Warriors are.
Yeah.
The Warriors
That's true.
are a killing machine.
The
really Warriors will come to your house, eat your food, sit on your couch and watch your Netflix.
Netflix with eat your popcorn.
Absolutely.
Likes popcorn.
And probably call you on your way back from work.
Like, hey,
we're at your house watching your TV. When you come through, just respect us. With all things, seriously taken, they've got home court advantage.
Yeah.
And the Trailblazers are coming into this on the back foot. They're tired because obviously they went the whole of 7 series when the Warriors, who had a tougher opponent, if you will, in the Rockets, had to go 6-game series. But still, they finished theirs earlier, so they've had their legs are fresher, their knees are fresher, but they're also the champion.
There's a whole bunch on the Warriors side here. Like, I'm not even going to go against the Warriors. I think we both agree the Warriors are going to win this series. I tend to feel that the Warriors will allow the Trailblazers at least one game, so I don't see it being a sweep. I think maybe in 5 or at 6. But I think that what the Trailblazers would have is the ability to play without pressure. Like at this point, they've overachieved. Because I don't think anybody, once Yusuf Nurkic got injured, thought that the Trailblazers would be in the
Maybe
Western
this-
Conference Final.
Not even Damian Lillard.
No, I don't know about Damian Lillard, but the thing is that because the teams they've beaten along the way, they've played so good to beat them. Look at the Thunder. I didn't actually think the Blazers would have enough to beat the Thunder, frankly, when you look at the Thunder's talent.
Okay, Cyrus, let's then ask a realistic question. We're not going to ask whether they're going to win or not. Are they going to sweep or not? I think this is the realistic.
No, I don't think this is going to be a sweep at all.
Cyrus,
I've watched this Warriors team for a long time.
Cyrus, last season, when I was a Cavaliers fan, because I follow LeBron James wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And then Spoo Shongwe, one of our guests, regular guest, said, no, Kaunda, and I've still got the WhatsApp message. This is a sweep. I thought he was crazy. I thought, come on. They will allow the
Cavs just
Cavs
won.
get a one game, just to keep the morale up.
Yeah, and then sweep it was. Brooms out in force.
Kevin Durant not pull out brooms in our own backyard?
But this is the other thing, though, is that the Cavs should have won Game 1 in that series.
They did.
Right? And then they didn't. The point being that I think the Warriors allow you opportunities and they allow you to win games. That's why I think that if the Trailblazers play to the best of their abilities and Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Enes Kanter, al-farouq Aminu, all of these guys really just bring their absolute A games, they could win a couple of games against the Warriors. But I don't see them winning the series. And that's why I'm saying I'm not going to bank on a sweep here. Though I see you going all in on the Brooms, I'm going to say that the 76, the Trailblazers will probably win at least one game. And then it will be a Bucks versus Warriors NBA Finals.
I see a yellow and blue set of brooms coming through. And I see a Raptors Warriors final. But look, this is just our first cut, right?
Well,
we got a whole lot of games to watch,
that is
potentially
true.
14 games to watch, Cyrus. So, it's been great.
It has been. The conference semifinals were good. The conference finals are going to be even better. Make sure you're watching them. We will be. Please interact with us at Post Up Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. Look for the Post Up Zone. You don't want to miss Post Up Zone on Facebook. And then obviously the postupzone.com. Go and visit postupzone.com. It is the home of basketball on the African continent. You get the best news, reviews, features, pretty much everything about the game.
Register and comment. We really welcome your comments. Register on the site, and you can comment and you can give us some feedback about articles you'd like to read, articles you enjoyed reading, things that you disagree with. We appreciate any comments because you're our people.
Yeah, Post Up Zone, where ball is live.